one time on the south side in the right mind, and we're blown and we're fucking it up. My God, fuck a fire line, and we're so high and we're coasting, we're chilling in the cut. My God, breaking street signs in the moonlight, and we know that it's never enough.
All right, welcome to another BuzzPlayers interview. Today we have Zach Black of Souls Extolled, and so this is what I listened to a bunch of your stuff after Alan reached out and stuff, and I got privy to the upcoming record that's not quite out yet, right? There's one called Soul Sex that's not out yet.
Right, yeah. So we're working on dropping Soul Sex, and we did the thing where we would drop in one single a month leading up to the whole album dropping. So now
the waterfall release, right?
So we've dropped 3 singles now. We did October, November, December, and then the record's about to come out here on the 2nd of January.
That's when it is. So it's close. It's getting close now.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's crunch time right now. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So before we talk, so I listened to that record obviously the most because it's the one that we're want to talk about a little bit more because it's the next one upcoming. But before we get into that, I do want to know, like, this band is kind of like, is it kind of like your baby?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I don't think JP and Joe would be too pissed about saying it's my baby. Yeah, basically, I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I was working in a guitar store over there in Hawaii called Hot Licks, and having rock and roll dreams. And my family is all. My dad and my big sister went to the University of Texas, the Longhorns, I'm wearing some Longhorns here right now, represent.
There you go.
Basically, like a lot of kids, trying to make my parents happy and go to college, but also, want to go somewhere where there's music. And it just so happened that they were saying, Austin had a cool music scene and stuff. So I basically came to Austin to go to UT and try to do music. And, there was actually an original version of Souls Extolled. Like the first kind of projects I got into was going to these rap open mics, and I was playing guitar with these different hip hop guys, like jumping up on stage. Yeah. And through those open mics, I finally met like some rockers and started putting a band together. And we got a couple gigs because this one hip hop guy, he was going by RNA the Messenger, but his name's Greg Benakis. He's a real cool guy. He's still doing stuff with now he's got a band called Black Sheep Optimist, but he basically is a rapper. Yeah, they're cool guys. And he's a little older than me and stuff. So he had already had his feet wet in the scene. And for some reason, man, he just took an interest in me. And when I had no idea how to get gigs or put anything together, he was just like, hey, man, I got 2 or 3 gigs on the books. And honestly, they're at these rock venues in Austin, and I'm not really the right kind of thing for them. Why don't you take these gigs and go, throw that band up on the stage? Oh, shit, man. No fucking way, man. You know what I'm saying? So got out and played the very first gigs, and he came up with the name because I was already writing some of the songs on the first record, like Follow the Ghosts. I was trying to do like a Modest Yahoo thing, like at least like, definitely more of a rock and roll vibe in it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like definitely like a spiritual kind of like tackling sort of big, existential stuff. And he just was like, dude, I read this word extolled the other day in this book, and I just was thinking about your band and like Souls Extolled. And I was like, man, that's a great name. And so
you were sold right there like that. You were sold.
And then, basically the idea was there. I ended up getting roped into another project that just had, basically where I had, other musicians in the band that were more like partners to try to do something. It was called Bad Rituals. So I was just focused on Bad Rituals pretty until the end of college. And then when college ended and people moved away and stuff, I was kind of back, alone. And just decided when I met my bass player, JP Ortiz, he's like the meanest bass player in Austin, man. You know what I mean? And me and him vibe, and we're having a great time together. We just decided to start a rock band. And I'm like, hey, you wouldn't want to use this weird name that I've got, Souls Extolled, to try to do this. And, JP is like, he's into a lot of world music and cumbia and stuff. But when we go into rock, he's actually more on like the metalhead vibe. So he was like, cool. Souls Extolled, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So that's
what? Now that I think about it, Souls Extolled could also kind of be like a metal band name. to an extent,
Oh yeah, yeah. I've gotten
like,
Christian rock a couple times, actually.
I mean, imagine it with like the death metal logo, the font, it's all crazy death metal font. Then you could kind of see it working,
And yeah, well, check out the first Souls Extolled record if you can see that bad boy. It's right there. It's like the eyes. You see the eyes?
That looks dope. It's like a Ouija board.
That was kind of the first logo. So it was definitely, it had a metal vibe, even if it was just really hard rock. You know?
Well, this and then Joe came into play after that.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, it was so me and JP met. I was actually doing some gigs alone, Zach Black, like paid gigs downtown, and I would start hiring musicians to play with me just to do like a one-spot gig here and there. That's how I met JP and Joe sort of separately, and then basically they were the guys when like I talked to JP about it, he was down, and then we had already played once or twice with Joe. Me and Joe have a lot of similar music tastes with like the Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes and MGMT being some of our favorite bands, Tame Impala. So went over to Joe. Joe's a little older than us and had a lot more experience actually playing in some touring bands and everything. But we came and asked him if he wanted to do it. And so the end of 2018, we were like starting to practice together. And then Joe always says that on New Year's of 2019, when it was changing over, I called him and he was in New York. And I was like, hey man, like basically the way he says it is he's like, Zach called me to be like, hey man, can we start a rock band? Like, do you want to be in a rock band? And he was like, fuck yeah. And really the conversation was like, hey Joe, I want to start an all original band where we're not going to make any fucking money, man. You know what I'm saying? And so basically, are you down to go in on this band where like, I'm not going to be able to pay you for any gigs or anything,
right?
But whatever money we make, we'll make original records and stuff.
Yeah.
And bless the gods, he was down for that, even though, he had both JP and Joe really have more of a professional musician resume where I got lucky that they were down to do that with me, basically, because they both can make some money out there doing their thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, they probably were already used to doing that, and that's an awesome thing to do. You know what I mean? Especially where you're at in Austin, it's a big thing. There's a lot of professional session players and stuff out there, and it's one of the biggest music scene cities. You know what I mean? Out there right now, and it has been for years. What is it that South by Southwest is out there all the time?
Yeah, South by Southwest in March, October has ACL, and those are kind of the things that bring people in from out of town. I feel like there's some kind of local festival or event, every month, really. And then the crazy thing about Austin is like, I mean, I went out for my buddy's show last night on a Sunday, and some people, a few people who don't really know, they were like, oh, I'm surprised so many people here on a Sunday. And I'm like, man, the right venues in Austin are popping every night of the week, really, like especially Thursday through Sunday. But even we've played some Tuesday, Wednesday shows in the right clubs. And it's really the fact that there's a lot of people in Austin who it's their thing to support local music. You know what I mean? Like some people like to go to football games. Some people are just local music heads. And so that makes the scene great for guys like us where, we're a small band, but we get treated with so much respect by like local music fans and stuff. And the community here really builds people up and makes it awesome, honestly.
That's what it takes to be in it's when I say like a major music city like that it takes both sides of that to make it work. It takes the fan side of it, the music supporter side, and the band side, both.
Yeah,
it's a two-way street, so that's kind of a beautiful thing, dude, honestly.
A lot of people don't know Austin actually has a lot of good music infrastructure that's like for kind of lower DIY musicians, you know what I mean? So they always say like, if you want the industry or whatever, that's somewhere else. But like Austin has tons of like small studios, PR agencies, booking agencies, small local labels, all that kind of stuff that's kind of geared to underground musicians. And so when you get, and then the city itself has like, they've got a program called HAM, which is Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. That's basically gets musicians healthcare who make below a certain amount of money.
Wow.
Sims Foundation does, it's free mental health counseling, like I guess a therapist for musicians. And so the city has a lot of stuff like that that's made to, try to, keep broke musicians out here, playing. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's incredible. I actually had no idea about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, where are you at, man?
We're right now in Vegas, but also California.
We played at Vegas in the Space.
Oh,
the
really?
Space LV. Yeah, we came through there November of the year before last. Now, I guess we played with those guys. Now they're called Twist Off, but they were called what was the band called before they changed their name? We played with and it was like Twist Off. They were called White Noise, I want to say, before that.
Okay.
And this band called like Elephant King. There's some cool local bands over there, man.
Dude, it's not the same as over where you are, but there's definitely a really just ridiculous music scene here, and there's a lot of people that also do support the indie bands here, because those are the guys that are going out, and playing gigs, like you said, like on a Wednesday night and a Thursday night. People want to see shit on a Wednesday night out. They come out here to do stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like, and for a long time I was in California, and we also have an office in Sherman Oaks in California, and they're like that too. Yeah, so it kind of depends on, where you're at, but like out in LA, there's like certain areas, of course, but Silver Lake, for example, is like an area where there's tons of venues that you don't have to. There's the two halves, there's like LA, is kind of like, it's half and half. The 50% of it's like, you want to play our venue, you have to pay us. And then the other half, oh yeah, dude, big time. And then that's how those venues make money. They say, you pay us this, how much, $400 or whatever it is, and then here's some tickets to sell, and yeah, it's fucking crazy. But then the other half is the opposite of that. The other half is like, yeah, we're going to do this, we'll pay you $150 to play tonight, whatever, to play that night, whatever, just bring as many people as you can. We'll give everyone a 1 free drink ticket, and then that'll get them going. And so there's two halves to it, but it's like the same thing. It's like, you got to know the right crowds and the right places to go to and the right crowds to get into to make that happen. Well, that's really crazy stuff. So in terms of the music and how you guys write the stuff, do you think up, like, do you write the songs for the most part kind of, and you take it to the guys, or do you guys get in a session together and like rock it out and figure it out from there?
Yeah, typically on the previous 3 records, definitely most of the time I like wrote the songs and brought it to the guys. This record, I think part of what makes it different and makes it stand out from our other 3, I apologize, I'm burping and shit.
All right.
Is really the fact that it was more collaborative in the way you're saying. So there's 7 songs on this record.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, let's see. There was like 2 of them on there that I definitely brought in mostly done. And I will also point out, like, even when I say that, obviously there's a lot in the, I'm bringing the guitar part, the song structure, and the vocals. Being a 3-piece band, and what JP usually does on the bass creatively is, such a huge part of it that, even in those circumstances, I'm bringing maybe 2/3 of the song in that case. But yeah, in this one, I think I had 2 songs that were like completely written, and then 1 song that was like halfway. Like, I didn't know how it was going to end. You know what I mean? I basically had like a verse, chorus, and we ended up writing a whole like magical addendum bridge into a whole other song, and then the other 3 or 4 were actually like, one of them I just had a riff, Triumphant Monsters. I just had bum 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 ba dum 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 dum, and the other 2, like Johnny and the Cut, were just like,
Johnny's awesome.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that one.
And then, so is the Cut, right? Though. So is the Cut. Johnny's like, here's the bass line is everything in that song. Like, for Johnny, the bass line drives that whole fucking song, dude.
And you got Johnny is like, those songs are definitely ones that more or less, because of some uncertainty around this record, some uncertainty around like basically if we were going to have the resources and whatever to make it.
Right.
But yeah, so I would be downstairs like getting a drink or something. We have a jam room upstairs where we're practicing here in my house. Yeah. And I just hear the guys would just fucking rip, you know what I mean? JP would just start playing some ripping bass line, and Joe would just pop in and just start slamming to it. And like, there's one song on like one of our previous records that stood out called Allegiant Swine. that also kind of stood out the same way, where it started with JP's bass line and I kind of came in and was like, all right, I'm just going to like start laying down my stuff on top.
Yeah.
And I always theorized as a songwriter that like this would be preferably the way to do it, because, you know, I'm a rhythm section player before I started playing guitar and singing. And so I when I listen to music, I hear the bass and the drums more than other instruments.
Right.
So I've just always thought these guys are so talented, and there's so much, you know, that like we would get so much more out of the songs if we started with whatever their like natural tendency is.
Right.
So when I hear them upstairs just like ripping like that, I come up there and I'm like, hey, that's what we need to write a song off of right there, because that kicks ass alone before I even do anything.
Right.
And that's like your guys' natural beat. Like that's your natural tempo. That's your natural, your fingers naturally go. Like that's you. That's your, you know. And so we wrote so much of this record together in the room, and I think that that's part of what makes it really special. And I think it's leveled up because also, to give you like a small background, was just that like we had a lot of stuff going on in our lives leading up to this record.
Okay.
I was supposed to get married like 2 years ago, and unfortunately my wife came down with cancer, and it was serious, like major surgeries and in the ECU. So like 2023, I guess, 2023 we were supposed to be doing, I was going to get married and we were going to make this record. And then luckily, and we kind of had to cancel both because of like more or less medical bills and everything going on. And thank God, you know, my wife made a full recovery. She's doing great now. It's all good. But at the end of 2023, as she's recovering from cancer, I also just like have financial issues. You know what I mean? Really, for the first time in my life, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've always worked in the security industry, like basically owning locksmith companies mostly. To make money, and everything just kind of hit the fan for me. And so at the beginning of this year, it was just like we didn't think we were going to have the money to make the record. I think like life had kind of beat me up a little bit, and I had sort of lost because I've always had a lot of stars in my eyes, man. Like I've never even been, well, other musicians get just so discouraged by the process of trying to do this. I've always been pretty tough and resilient, and like honestly having a great time, because I came here to Austin and there's a billion musicians here. So just the fact that I've kind of been let into the scene and I can go and headline some of the big venues and stuff. It's like, I'm so grateful that I've just never really gotten jaded or bitter. But, you know, when I was thinking, hey, man, I'm gonna have to sell my house and move out of Austin.
Yeah, that's tough. That's hard, man. Dude, I'm very similar in terms of being an entrepreneur and you know, but sometimes shit just gets tough, man. Sometimes, you know, you have to, you know, you get beat down. Life can beat you down at times, you know what I mean? So at that point you were all right, we might not be able to make this record at that point.
Exactly. And I think that the blessing of that was that, you know, I sometimes I use words I don't completely understand, but I think the right word is like contrived. Like all my other songwriting, although I'm really, really proud of like all the records we've done. I think there's all kinds of great stuff on there. But I just think there's something that you lose when things are so planned out. I went into those studios with those songs so mapped out, man. And not just the songs, like I knew the songs A to Z. I knew what kind of production I wanted. I knew, you know, what the artwork was going to look like, what the whole theme of the record was. It was like, because to me, that's fun, sitting there with a piece of paper and almost like drawing out. Like I had a month-to-month plan for those records of like everything that was going to happen. You know what I mean? And with this, that letting go of like, okay, like we don't even really have a reason to be practicing, because I might even have to fucking move. The band could end. We don't know if we're going to have any money to make this record. You know, we just were in the room for no reason. And I kind of like just threw my hands in the air, like, yeah, man, let's just write a song off that. That's cool. That's cool. It was a lot more laid back. Like JP would say that the best way to say it is, and JP's my bass player, JP Ortiz. Yeah. He's like, the best way to describe it is Zach just stopped trying and stopped caring on this record and made the best shit that he's made yet because of that. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, fuck it, and threw my hands on the guitar. And, you know, and the truth is, I really do try. Like on the other records, I really was trying to make something great. I was trying, like even the last record, MMXXII, it's like Roman numerals, it's regal. It's literally like saying like, this is great
Yeah.
in the whole
like epic. It's like epic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's really one of the special sauces is like in the early this year, things kind of turned around for me economically.
Good.
And the business that I was an owner of, I was like, hey, I went to my business partner and it's basically like, hey man, would you buy me out? He was excited for the opportunity. And so him buying me out of that business gave me the money to do my wedding with Paige this summer. And yeah, man, thank you. Mazel tov.
Good for you, dude. I love a fucking warm, fuzzy, happy ending like that, dude. You know,
and the wedding was fucking awesome. Like we had a dream wedding.
Congrats,
at the South Congress Hotel here. Traveled around Europe for all of July, and then it's
cheers
like,
to that, man. Congrats,
cheers,
to that,
brother. Thank you. And then, you know, different musical connections had introduced me to Chris Frenchie Smith, who's like a big time producer in Austin. He works out of the Bubble Studio, and he's recorded Jet. He's recorded the Toadies. They were in the studio.
Love the Toadies.
Yeah, they were in the studio the week before we were.
No shit.
In June. Yeah, I don't remember what he said they were doing. If they were re-recording something or if they were doing something new. But yeah, so man, it was like basically I realized I was going to have some money. I didn't think I was going to have the money to really like put the record out, but I thought we might have the money to make it. Yeah. And I talked to JP, and JP's like, yeah, man, well, I'm willing to throw down to help, you know, pay for this record. But I was still like, but you know, man, do we need to do this? Like, you know, I still didn't have the feelings of like, I was like, you know, I know the songs are good and stuff, man, but like, is there really a reason to do this? And JP's the one who's like, dude, these are the best songs that we've written. Like, I think these songs are good enough where even if we don't have the resources to like go on tour and do this or that to put the record out, like we should make the record.
Make the record. Make the fucking record.
Reach out to Frenchie
your boy,
Smith.
dude. JP's your boy.
JP is, dude. He's a great guy, and he's also just one of the greatest friends. He was there with me in the hospital and shit when Paige was, you know. He's the best man at my wedding. He's the man. I was just with him last night, actually. That's why I just woke up hungover from hanging out with JP last night. And and yeah, but and so then, you know, the next part of the story is really just that we reach out to Frenchie. Frenchie's, you know, interested in working with us, and then he comes in for like a consultation where he just hears the songs, and a lot of these songs are still like in pieces. Yeah. And it was another big thing, like, you know, really getting the most out of the producer. It's better, I've learned, come to the producer with like, you know, songs that are 50 to 70% done. Yeah. A really talented guy like Frenchie is giving us like the right answers in terms of what to do with that last 20% and production. Right. And he just, as soon as we talked to him, he came in, heard the songs, and just the words that came out of his mouth were like, he understands us better than we understand ourselves. Right. He heard these records and he knows what this record's going to sound like already. Right. So we just went in there and made it with him, man. And the whole thing has just been so go with the flow, from the artwork to the release and everything that's happened. And we've had more opportunities come our way, not trying, you know what I mean, than any of the records before, man. We've got to sign with a local label, Chicken Ranch Records. Yeah. We've got,
it just all comes naturally after, you know, at a certain point, you know, like
I suppose, yeah.
It's just maybe it's just the way the universe works. It's in certain, you know, at certain points in certain ways. Maybe it's like when you stop pushing so hard and trying so hard, maybe you open up a little bit of a different door, and the universe ends up giving you different kinds of opportunities that you wouldn't have had if you kept pushing. So maybe all that stuff was kind of like a, you know, quote unquote blessing in disguise. And I don't mean to say that about obviously wife getting cancer. It's definitely not. But in terms of financial struggles and things like that, in the end game, you got more opportunities. You got to put out the record. You had someone that you know, really solidified himself as like a real, like JP is obviously a real friend, dude, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh man, we're so lucky. JP and Joe and the whole community that we have here in Austin is unbelievable, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
let's talk about this record, because, you know, I at this point, so it's coming out January 2nd. So, you know, and there's some shit on there, dude, that's like, it's like just a you know, it's got everything in it. Like it's not like, it's psychedelic indie garage rock with, you know, there's elements there. So one of my I don't know if you ever heard of this band. You probably have, but one of my favorite bands ever, probably my favorite band on earth, is a band called McCluskey. And if you've never heard of them, check them out. And there's one of the tracks on this record. I forget which one it is. I don't know if it's Fathers Before. It might be Fathers Before, but there's just a lot of just stellar guitar work on the record where it feels like, you know, the way that the songs were written and the way the guitars are done, especially on the record, it feels like it's not really boxed into a specific thing. So it's very like open-ended. It's a bit experimental, but you go through these, like Johnny, for example, is like a really catchy song. You know what I mean? But there's other tracks on there that are like a bit theatrical and a bit wild and have these crazy guitar stuff, you know, guitar tones and effects and delays and all kinds of stuff going on. So you get the trippiness, but it also has a little bit of that, you know, kind of harder edginess to it at times, not the whole way through, but it's just a great combination of, you know, and you kind of answered this question already, but I wanted to ask you, like, you know, in terms of for you specifically, you know, your maybe your top 5 influences musically. And a lot of people don't like this question; they hate me for it. But you know, and you mentioned the Strokes and you mentioned Arctic Monkeys and bands like that. Already. So and it doesn't have to be like, hey man, this is a band that like fucking the guitarist is the sickest, and it could just be like maybe your mom played records when you were a kid, and that's what made you be like, you know, give me some of those. What are some of your biggest, in your heart, your biggest musical influences that changed you, dude?
Yeah, I think that it's probably like the one thing about the way influences have hit me is I feel like it's kind of like, you know, the water hits the ground and it soaks through all the rocks and it becomes this clean water under the ground that you pump out to drink. You know what I mean? Right. So like there's, you know, at times when I felt really inspired by something in particular and tried to make something like that, it like didn't work at all. Mm-hmm. And like the way that I write songs usually is like a time like this, I wake up like hungover and I just like in my underwear sit on the couch, and sometimes I like just play some little riff. Sometimes I'll just play a little bit of like a piece of some cover of some song I figured out like 2 chords to, and I'm like, oh, it's to sing that song. And other times, like a whole fucking song will just just come out of me, man. Or like half a song just but there it is, you know? And no doubt it's coming from some amalgamation of influences in my mind, but how it's happening, I don't know. But what I will say is definitely early on, when I was learning to play drums when I was 7 and then bass at middle school and guitar in high school, I've always been a big time like classic rock guy. Yeah. So like anyone's dad who listens to rock, me and them are going to get along really good. Unless they're just like I love the Beatles kind of dad. Cause I'll be like, come on, bro. Like, let's, you know, but like, I like the Beatles too, but I'm just saying like, I like to get into, so I mean, for the Doors and Led Zeppelin, you know, huge Jimi Hendrix, huge influences on me. The Who, you know, probably are the biggest. And then like, I'm still listening pretty frequently to like, you know, Rush, Ozzy Osbourne, Yes, you know what I'm saying? In the 90s, like Alice in Chains, I guess, is probably like the biggest one, and Nirvana. So I think that those just like classic rock, the stuff that everyone listens to, everyone loves. Metallica, oh my Lord, how did I forget Metallica? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That stuff has a huge influence on me. It still feels relevant to me. You know what I mean? I listen to it. Sometimes people have joked on me, younger people, when I'll pull up my car and I'm rocking some music like that. They're almost like, dude, you realize it's kind of corny now, right? Like you're like, you know what I mean? And like, to me, it's like those songs came out yesterday and they make so much sense. But then, you know, making like, and I think I was always actually trying to be like more of a classic rock band, but it is a little bit of a modern influence, but you can't really help what comes out. Definitely though, especially listening to the last record, you can hear like my favorite bands to listen to that came out anytime recently are definitely like Tame Impala, The Strokes, the Arctic Monkeys, MGMT, Co-Eating Cambria, you know what I'm saying? So I think those are probably...
Yeah, so you definitely, you know, and the reason that I like to ask questions like this is because, you know, once you get the influences from the artist or the band, then you can go back and listen to the record again and see if you can pick up on any of that shit. Because a lot of times you may not even do. I don't think someone like yourself or a band like you guys, I don't think the way that you write songs or the way that you even play, if you're doing a track, I don't think you're purposely, like, I don't think if you lay something down that sounds totally like a Yes riff, right? I don't think you're going to be like, you might not even realize you did that, and come back and be like, oh shit, there's that, and pick up on that. That's why I like to ask about that. I love asking about influences.
The best thing, if you do have a riff that sounds like someone's lick, is that you don't know it until after the shit is like dropped. You know what I mean? Because you won't be able to, or at least for me, I won't be able to like finish the song,
Yeah.
Sometimes there's something funny though, like in Gold, the bass solo, that's like at the end, like where that crazy breakdown guitar thing.
Yeah.
Like when John plays that alone, there's a little bit of it that kind of sounds like the Collective Soul.
Oh, that's so funny. I remember that song. Yeah.
When JP plays that bass line alone in the room, like the way it starts off, it's just like, and we're all looking at each other and like laughing a little bit about it, especially because like you wouldn't be able to hear it within the context that it's in, but you pull it out and there's some kind of notational similarity.
Yeah, well, you pick up on it. If you're a musician that does what you do, you're going to end up being like, oh, wait a second. But it's not like it matters, but it's just something that happens to, Heaven Let Your Light Shine Down. I remember that song. Yeah.
Yeah. And, man, we've always been like, eclectic is the nice way to say it. You know what I mean? I felt as I was, making the records, I felt like, the first one, Follow the Ghost, has a lot of good stuff on it, but all the different things we're trying to do, I feel like are very like concise in the different songs. So it definitely feels more sort of all over the place. And then Seraphic War, the second EP or record, I feel like it was nice. And we really got a good blend of two things that we were trying to do, which was basically like sort of a skank ska punk and like classic rock. You know what I mean? That was like mixed together really nicely. And then with MMXXII, it got kind of diverse again, even though we did that on a couple songs, but it was meant to be 12 singles that we then lumped into a record for the year 2022. Right. And so I think that it kind of spread out again. And then this song, this one, feels the most, this one to me is maybe eclectic is the best word for this one, because
it is.
It seems like it makes sense together. Like it fits together as one thing, even though you try to describe it and put your finger on it. Like it's easy to say, like we've been saying indie punk, it's indie rock, punk rock, because that's the vibe. But there's, so much in there. You know what I mean? There's
a lot of stuff on the record. And that's what I was trying to say before. It's kind of like you kind of like mend and bend genres throughout it. And that's what I mean by this record wasn't really boxed in to one specific thing. And I'm not really a huge fan of genre titles anyway, to be honest with you. But I think that this one in particular was perfectly experimental, where it the songs still had great catchiness to them, they had great edge to them, but there was always some cool experimental or semi-theatrical kind of disco rock.
Yeah, man, that's the one that really it excites me. Like I feel like Vanguard and A Star Is Born, and Fathers Before are like very much like up the alley of sort of the kind of stuff that I tend to write. But like when I hear fucking Johnny and The Cut and Triumphant Monsters, I get that feeling of like, it's fucking cool to me that I was able to, be a part of this, because like those songs are they're not something that I would typically think that I could write or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's real cool,
Going outside the box. No, it's awesome, dude. So this comes out January 2nd. In terms of, are you guys playing shows what's the deal with like live performances right now? Are you going to do a release show or anything like that?
Yeah, we've been paused for a minute, man. Just because like, so the basic thing was we came in from Vegas in July for my bachelor party right before I got married, and played like our just like a last little show that we got invited to play it down in downtown over there at the Chess Club. And then from there we basically just like, I was getting married all of July, and pretty much thought we would just not play until the end of the year while we figured like putting out this record.
Right.
So we've just been practicing every week, but yeah, we've got shows lined up for the new year, man. Right now, like I guess we have 3 shows that are all not announced because the bill is still coming together. But essentially, we have a show like in January, February, and March, and like it's probably going to be like just kind of like a general release party in early January. In February, we've got like a Valentine's Day show we're putting together. And then in March, we'll probably have several showcases we play. Usually every year, you know, we play a couple gigs during South by. And then at the end of the month, at the end of March, we're supposed to be doing a vinyl release party because we actually got vinyls for the first time on this record. So yeah, that's pretty much so the first half of the year, we'll have like 1 gig a month here in Austin. And then usually what will happen, even though we haven't really moved on this, once we get those, is we'll set up 1 to 2 out of town shows a month. So once those Austin shows are solid, maybe we'll do like Dallas in January, you know, Houston in February, something like that. You know what I mean? Start hitting the towns around the Texas. And then, you know,
you got a bit of a plan. You got a bit of a plan going on.
We've got some, it's been moving slowly, partially because of the fact, like I was kind of saying on the, you know, I haven't been pushing everything. I haven't been forcing anything to happen. Yeah. Which seems, you know, it's not an approach I've ever tried before. But like even with like Al booking the release show, you know, it's like how it always is. At first, we're just like not getting a lot of responses. We don't know. And then we get all the responses at once. And now it's like, okay, do you want to do this release show on this day at this venue? This, like, we got like 5 options spread across several months. And we got to work out like, okay, what do we, when and what do we want to actually do? Yeah. But you know, I've just been rolling with no stress, man. Cause I'm like, man, even if we did the release party in March or something, like at the end of the day, I have a strange confidence, on this record that just like, I know that it kicks ass. I know that whenever we end up on the stage in front of people, they're going to, you know, dig it. And so, you know, we'll see how it comes together. And we've got some cool little things happening that hopefully will open up some opportunities to go to Europe. Nice. As soon as summer of next year. But, you know, maybe as soon as summer of, oh no, I guess it is next year. Yeah. Cause we're still in summer of next year, but maybe the end of next year. And that's like kind of our major goal, is to try to go over and play a couple shows across the pond just to kind of bring our flag over there.
Yeah, that would be super cool. All right. So I think I have one last question. And I'm going to ask you this just because when I listened to the record, I kind of got this vibe, but I have no idea. Were some or all of these songs recorded live on the floor for this album?
Yeah, so I mean, like they weren't recorded live in terms of us, like, well, I guess like the bass and drums, you know, are recorded. Like, there's at least like I think we all have headphones and we're all in the room together.
Got it.
And the drums get recorded, I guess, with us playing with him like that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And then I think some of the bass lines and guitar parts from those initial takes are the takes that are kept, and we just kind of go back and start to add stuff. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it live, but definitely like kind of a more raw recording style.
Yeah, I mean the reason that I bring it up is because when you listen to it, at times I wondered, you know, because of the energy, it's the kind of record. See, this is what I like. You know, one of the things that I really liked about the record is that I love any kind of record that's a rock-based record, I guess, that when you listen to it, it immediately makes you want to go see them live, because it feels like on the record, everyone is kind of feeding off of each other, you know, energy-wise, you know, energy. Yeah. And that, I think that energy kind of comes through on the record and makes it like alive, you know, and that's a really, you know, so it's good. So I get what you're saying. Like, you recorded the drums, like maybe you were on guitar and you know, JP was on the bass and everyone was kind of like rocking out. And while the drums were being recorded.
I'm trying to think too, because one thing, everything happened with Frenchie really fast, compared to the other. I mean, I guess I remember when I was in there with Frenchie that I basically didn't know I was recording like the takes some of the times. And so sometimes I was listening back, he's like, yeah, this is it. And I'm like, that's it? Like, I don't know, man. I think I could maybe play that better. I mean, whatever, this or that. So I'm trying to remember exactly what the process was there. like once we got those drum takes down, I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm trying to remember how much me and JP were plugging in, you know, after the fact to play the parts, but definitely a good percentage of it was recorded. Yeah, just like us playing together like that in the room. And then another thing about that, man, is the audio engineer Brendan Sanders and Frenchie over there are just really good producers. So I mean, Frenchie being a guitar player himself, you know, he took like the character of my guitar, like in the cut. You know, I've always done shit where I'll like hit a harmonic on my guitar and like bend the neck and let it just squeal out. And he like took those things and really made them like the song. Like in the verse, he's got like 2 or 3 of those tracks of me just making noise and they're all panning around while I'm doing the rough vocal, you know, in the verses. So yeah, I mean, I think really I would give him credit for that on just like, I would say that the energy is definitely there between us as a 3-piece band. Like we're a great live band because of rhythm section just kicks everyone's ass. And then I'm up there just, you know, throwing some frosting on the top of that delicious.
But it's energy though. It's not just rhythm section. And that's why I said that in the first place, is that you listen to this record, right? So when Alan hit me up, I listened to this one first. You know what I mean? This was the first, you know, kind of like I listened to this record before I went backwards. But technically, you know, when you listen to this record, it's like immediately like, you know, you want to go see the band because it's like the energy is there. And that's why I asked if it was actually recorded. You guys just went in the room and now that I know the story, but still it's like, you know, you listen to it and you go, yeah, you can kind of tell when you listen to the record that seeing these songs played live would be just bangers, dude, live, you know?
Hell yeah, dude. I'm so glad to hear that, man. You couldn't give me any better compliment. And I hope you do have a chance to come see the band, man.
Let us know if
tell the magazine to fly you out to Austin, bro.
That'd be awesome. Listen, let me know if you're here, if you come out to Vegas.
Hell, we'd love you, man. We'd love to come back and play with those bands again that we played with because they did a great show at the space that we got to jump on. I mean, that's like a big space out there. I don't know if you've been to that venue.
I've heard of it. I haven't been there, but I've been past it. So I know which one you're talking about. It's a big venue. Yeah.
Cool space, man. Cool space. And those bands over there seem like they're doing a great job. I would check out that band Twist Off and Elephant King, and I'll try to find the other band we played with, but they seem like they're doing good work over there. But yeah, no, we'll definitely hit you up if we come out there, man. I mean, we'll see what's in store in terms of when the next like big national tour is going to be. You know, I think that we're trying to go to Europe here. But you know, if that doesn't work out, if it does work out, then we'll, you know, probably be touring this record around the country, you know, next year or in 26, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But otherwise, you know, we'll start branching out. Usually we split it in half and do like a west-east thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And nice, so I gotta always hit Vegas for sure, dude.
Yeah, just let me know, man. But all right, so Soul Sex is the record, comes out January 2nd everywhere. Okay. Oh. Thank you, Zach Black, for hanging out and doing this. I really appreciate it. You're awesome. You're an awesome human to talk to. You know, this has been a lot of fun.